Many on this channel may or may not know, I'm a massive history fan. I love learning about history. I love reading about history. I love watching history documentaries. I absolutely love reading about stuff that happened in the past, not just in the UK, but stuff that happened in Europe, and sometimes the stuff and bizarre things you learn, like the Great Latrine disaster that happened in Germany, where a meeting of the Holy Roman Empire ended in absolute disaster when the floor gave away and a load of people fell into the latrine and died, and that had big historical ramifications on the direction that would happen in Central Europe. So history is a fascinating subject sometimes, but bizarre and wonderful stuff can indeed happen. But politics also has its own particular history, and this moment in time, you'll hear a lot of people talking about, oh, this is all very 1992. Now, back in 1992, I was, well, two at the time, so I don't particularly remember this time at all. I probably should say I wasn't even very interested in politics at that moment in time, but 1992 is getting thrown around a lot. So why all of a sudden not only that, why are people talking a lot about why this feels very, very 1992, and more importantly, why it is important that Keir Starmer is learning from the traps and the failure of Labour back in 1992. So, before we do going into sort of finding out more about this and why it's all a bit 1992 again, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. Like I say, there is the Pony Club down below as well, and of course the YouTube thank you button as well. And of course, remember, to the Patreon members and the Pony Club members, it is Wednesday. That means Pony Club Day, so I will be releasing, probably already released at this point, a video for all my Patreons and the Pony Clubbers. So make sure that you go and check that out as always. If you'd like to sort of see not only this week's video, but of course the previous videos that we've made as part of the Pony Club, like I say, you can join either the Pony Club or the Patreon down below, and you can gain access to all those videos as well. So 1992, just what on earth was going on? Well, at this point in 1992, everyone knew, once again, there was going to be a general election. We didn't really know, once again, when this particular general election was going to be announced, but the polls were clearly indicating that the Conservatives had run out of steam, run out of gas. Everyone would been, at that point, fed up of John Major. His entire government was covered in scandal after scandal after scandal. Not only that, you'd just gone through the Black Friday, or no, not Black Friday, Black Wednesday saga, where the pound absolutely tanked and the economy was in an absolute shambles. So by that point in 1992, people were fed up of the Conservative government and were a lot more inclined to go, hey, maybe Neil Kinnock has some good ideas. Maybe Labour can help sort these problems out. And of course, unfortunately, Neil Kinnock and Labour at that time fell into a lot of the same Tory traps that many, many previous leaders, bar from, Tony Blair, have fallen into. And this is one of the things that we've got to remember. Blair found the winning formula for Labour, and it has been the most successful Labour campaigns have been those where they have looked at Blair, looked at what worked, looked at what didn't work, and followed through on that. And the worst campaigns of when we have lost has been, shall we say, the complete repudiation of Blair. We only looked at the Conservative civil war that's going on, and you looked at those Conservatives who were like, no, we don't want to move further right because, look, elections are won in the UK from the centre ground. I've said it before. You ask people what their political leanings are, most people come out as centrist rather than left or right. And there is far, far more centrists in the country than we probably we all want to admit, but that just happens to be the case. But that's the case that we are in, this 1992 mood. And what happened? Why did Labour end up losing? Well, for whatever reasons, we don't know to this day, there was decided to launch a shadow cabinet budget. And this gave the Tories ammunition for days to start saying, attacking Labour's tax plans, their economic plans, and they went from looking like absolutely losing to not only narrowing the polls but beating Labour potentially in the polls as well. And this gave the Conservatives so much ammunition because they were like, oh, look at all these tax rises they've put in their shadow budget. This is going to be an absolute double whammy to the economy. We've got all these really precious green shoots of recovery sprouting up. You don't want to change to a Labour government because all those precious green shoots are going to be absolutely trampled by Neil Kinnock and his Labour government, and they'll absolutely destroy any sort of economic recovery. And this was ultimately culminated, and this isn't mentioned a lot. I'm actually quite surprised at this, but to most people who look at political history, Neil Kinnock came to Sheffield like a week before the election and gave this massive, grandiose speech where he declared that Labour was literally about to walk into power and it would be a change in government and it was all going to be this fantastic stuff. And he lost the following week. And it has become known down in history as this massive, almost vote-sniffing operation that has gone down in history as an absolute terrible call. And here's the thing. What should, of course, Labour learn from this? Well, first of all, you've got to be careful not to fall into your opposition's traps, because right now, at this very moment in time, we have literally just heard when Rishi Sunak was up in Manchester recently, up north. He came out and said pretty much the same thing, that we are having these great sort of economic recoveries, and you don't want to change to a Labour government because Starmer's going to come along and mess all this up. Meanwhile, of course, the previous week, Starmer comes out, delivers a somewhat rather good speech on what Labour would do in power, outlining some of the policy proposals he would, go on and do. People don't remember that. Instead, Starmer got asked a load of questions, which were almost directly Tory traps about how, would he rule out sort of tax rises and various other things. And this is what we have to be, and this is why Starmer getting accused of being too timid. If anything, he is being very, very cautious, and he is playing a very, very good game at this point. He is, as often been said, he is balancing a Ming vase on his head. He has that 20-point lead, but you don't want to lose it. And of course, as we've said before, when you go into a general elections can be bizarre and weird beasts where, once again, Theresa May went into a general election thinking she was going to, come away with this absolute, massive majority built on what was meant to be a big Brexit election, but that didn't happen. It became the pensioners' winter allowance election, bizarrely, of all things, and she lost her majority because of that. So, just because Starmer is being, cautious and careful does not mean he is not saying things and doing things. Big problem is, when you're the leader of the opposition, it's very difficult. And especially when you've got, should we say, most of, should we say, the news media isn't, should we say, Labour friendly, you've got to be careful, because if not, the Conservatives are going to make mincemeat, because they did that in 1992, once again, when people thought, gee, Labour are about to just go in and take power, but they didn't. So we've got to be careful, and that's why you're hearing a lot of people saying, oh, it feels all very 1992 at the moment. So hopefully that's a bit more of an more explanation about what's going on. because it is somewhat interesting what's going on at the moment out there. But Starmer and Labour are saying stuff, but they are doing it very very carefully by not, shall we say, falling into any pitfalls that Rishi Sunak is now avidly trying to dig as many as he possibly can so that they can fall into. Just remember, back in 1992, that's what Neil Kinnock fell into as well, when he was expected to just, be walking into, number 10 very easily. And, well, if you don't believe me, go have a look at his Sheffield speech that he delivered, because, oh boy, looking back on history and knowing that a week later he was about to lose the election, yeah, it's very, very bad. So, as always, thank you very much, of course, for watching. And of course, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.